Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So it's been already 4 days now, and today in this video I'm going to do the water test and I'm going to show you how I figure out the leaks if I had any. If I'm lucky, I'm not going to get any leaks, but if I do get leaks, I will show you how I figure out the leaks. Now, figuring out a leak inside your tank, whether your tank is leaking or not, it's not very difficult. Usually the water starts pooling around the tank. At the base of the tank you can see the water pooling around the tank, but the difficult part is because the glass is also clear, the water is also clear. It becomes a little difficult what part of your tank is leaking, or in what area the tank is leaking, and to pinpoint out the leak is very difficult. So in this video I'm going to show you how I do that. And as you can see, the tank is now empty, and that's why I've put the tank on a hard surface with a little softer material at the bottom. But before filling our tank, you need to make sure that you put something softer underneath the tank, so that if there is any unevenness of the surface, or if there is any grit, any sand, or any small hard particles underneath the ground or the table that you're putting your tank on, the softer material that you will put underneath will absorb those hard surfaces and will conform to the unevenness of the surfaces, so that your aquarium can sit on top of the soft surface properly. And if there is any hard material, instead of pushing into the glass, the hard material will push into the softer material, thereby giving your tank a very stable and very softer and even surface to stay on, so that when you fill it up with water, there is very less chance of you cracking your tank. So before I start filling this tank, let me just put this tank on top of some thermocol sheet, and then we will start filling the tank bucket by bucket. And the first thing that we will do is we will add a bucket of water and see whether the base is leaking, because if the base is leaking, then there is no point checking for the all of the tank, because the base is leaking. So let me just put some thermocol underneath the tank. Okay, so I've added the thermocol or the thermofoam sheet underneath on the floor, and now what I'm going to do now is basically I'm going to take a couple of pieces of papers, and I'm going to put the piece of papers on top of the thermocol. Now this is the part that will tell us what part of our aquarium is leaking, or whether our base is leaking or not, without having to look around the tank and feel with our hand whether the tank is leaking or whether there is water or not. So let me just put the piece of paper on top of the thermocol, and then we will put the tank on top of the paper. So the paper is on. Let me just put the tank on top of the paper. Okay, so I put the tank on top of the thermocol, and on top of the thermocol I've put paper, and then on top of the paper there is the tank. So let me just bring in a couple of buckets of water and start filling our tank. So let me show you what happens when the water touches the paper. Okay, so I've got the buckets of water filled with water, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the smaller bucket of water first, and then we will see that base is leaking, if the base is leaking or not. And if there is any leak, as you can see, the water looks completely white. And what will happen when the water touches the paper, as you can see, the water looks white, and when the water touches the paper, you will see that the water will turn this dark color, and you will be easily spot the location of the leak, if your tank is leaking or not. And then after that, what we can do is we can swipe the white colored paper around the corners of a tank as we start filling the tank up, and that will tell us what part or what seam of our tank is leaking. Also, if the tank is leaking from the side, the water will start dropping down, and that will also make the paper stain at the bottom. So that will also tell us whether the tank is leaking from this seam or any other joint in our tank. So let me start filling the tank with water, and let's hope that it doesn't leak. So I'm going to start with the smaller bucket of water, and then we'll add more buckets. So the first thing that we want to establish is that the base of our tank is not leaking, because if the base is leaking, then there is no point filling the tank up to the top. So let me just bring the camera closer so that you can see. Okay, so I hope you can see, and let me start adding the water. So the first small bucket going in, let's hope it doesn't leak. Let's wait for a second and see whether the paper is turning into dark color or not. Let me add another bucket of water just to speed up the process. Going in another bucket of water. Let's wait for a second now. So you can see that so far the paper looks really white, and we can't see any discoloration of the paper. That means the base of a tank is not leaking, at least yet. So let me just pause and fill the tank halfway through, and then we will check back whether the tank is leaking or not. And you can also see around the tank the paper is still white. It's not turning dark because of the water, so the tank is not leaking yet. So let me fill the tank a little more, and then I will start show you what happened. Okay, so fill the tank almost more than half now, as you can see. Let me go back a little bit. So you can see the tank is a little more than half filled, and I'm going to add a couple more buckets of water until the tank is completely filled. And if you look inside, no change of color of the paper, no leaks so far, which is a good thing. Looking around, paper is completely white, so the tank is not leaking. And here is another test that I have to, another tank that I still have to test after this one, but I'm not going to show the test with this tank. All I wanted to do is show you that once you build a tank, how you can test whether the tank is leaking or not. And if it is leaking, which is the difficult part to figure out, if it is leaking, what part of the tank is leaking, and where the water is coming out from your tank first. So let me just fill the tank up completely, and then I'll show you again. Okay, so the tank is filled to the very top, and as you can see, if you look around the paper, there is no white coloration, no darkenation of the white colored paper. This technique works best with the brown colored papers, because if the paper was brown, you will immediately see the effect, but the effects are also much visible in case of a white colored paper that I'm using. Looking at the inside of the tank, you can see there is no darkening of the white paper, so the tank is not leaking. And as you can see, I filled the tank right up to the top, and this is the rim of the tank. This is rimless, that's why I like rimless tank. And this is the water level. I'm not sure, I'm not going to be filling the tank at this level. It should be about little lower than that, but because I was testing the tank and I wanted to show you guys, this is what I do when I'm building a new tank, and I wanted to test whether the tank is leaking or not. So there we go, this was my video. I've got another tank to test. Anyways, I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.